Hey guys, so a few months ago, I praised the Halloween Gambit as the most lethal opening to surprise your opponents after they respond with e5 on move 1, especially in rapid, blitz and bullet chess. However, I have discovered something much more safe and reliable that you can employ not only in blitz, but also in classical tournaments. So before I show you my new findings, which are full of traps, let me demonstrate the Halloween Gambit to those of you who are unfamiliar with it. So in the Halloween Gambit, white starts with e4, then black responds with e5, knight to f3, knight c6, and then instead of playing bishop c4, white plays knight c3, inviting black to enter into the 4 knights variation of the king's pawn game. The idea for white is to sacrifice the knight on e5 right away, so that if black takes, you now start chasing those knights with your pawns like this and this. The problem is that while this can be good in rapid, blitz or bullet, it's not reliable when it comes to serious classical games. So instead of taking this approach against the 4 knights variation, I want to show you something more reliable and simple that you are going to make as your new opening repertoire from today onwards. So you simply begin with e4, then black responds with e5, you play knight f3, knight c6, then we don't play bishop c4, we simply go knight c3, and let me turn on the Lichess database to show you the most common moves. Most black players play knight to f6 in this position, which introduces the 4 knights variation. Now spoiler alert, the development of our light squared bishop will always be delayed. So we are never going to think of playing an early bishop c4 or bishop b5. We replace bishop c4 with a very interesting and uncommon waiting move, pawn to a3. And this is the beginning of our traps, you guys. So stay tuned. There are 4 common responses that we are going to look at in this video. The first one is bishop c5, as you can see, the top played move, and the next one is d5, the second most played move, then d6 and bishop e7 at last. So we are going to move in that order. With pawn to a3, we are waiting to see what black is up to. For example, if they play bishop c5, the top played move, which is a long-term positional mistake, our simple idea is to sacrifice our knight on e5 like the way we do it in the Halloween Gambit. Now this time, we are not giving up a free piece, because pawn to d4 is our savior, which will make us take back our piece. Surprisingly enough, the top played move in this position, bishop takes d4, is a losing mistake. Watch. You first of all take that bishop, attacking the knight, so they're going to play knight c6, counter-attacking your queen, and this is the only position you would want to remember, you guys. You don't want to play queen back to d1 because that will delay your castling. You want to castle long in most of these lines. Again, you don't want to play queen d2 because that will block your dark squared bishop. So it's better you block your light squared bishop like this. Queen d3 is the key move to remember in this line. Given a chance, it opens a new opportunity to play queen g3 in the near future. So after queen d3, black may castle short, and this is when you want to castle long, but you first of all develop your dark squared bishop, which also provokes h6. There are so many good moves that you can consider, such as bishop h4, bishop f4 or bishop e3, but the best attacking move that I always want you guys to try out against your opponents is pawn to h4, giving up your bishop for free. And now you see another idea of putting your queen on d3, because if black takes your bishop, you take back, and let's say knight h7, you have queen d3, and my man, you are about to checkmate black either on h7 or on h8. Even if they don't play knight h7, and let's say they go pawn to d5, giving up their minor piece, well, this time you don't have queen h3, but at least you have queen g3, which was the main purpose of putting your queen on d3 back on move 8. And now black's knight is still under attack. So let's say if they take on e4, this is another tactical shot to remember. You don't want to play queen h4 in an effort to mate your opponent on h8, because tables may turn around. For example, queen h4 is very bad due to f5. When you give a check, your opponent will be able to rescue their king. The problem with queen h4 is that you don't have pawn to g6, which stops your opponent king from escaping, because black will simply take your queen and you are losing. So instead of playing queen to h4 right in this position, you better use your mind and play queen h2, and now checkmate is now unavoidable. For example, if they play f5 this time, you have pawn to g6. You can see that black can no longer take your queen, so this is clearly checkmate. Start solving your chess puzzles, you guys, for you to start spotting these kinds of tactics easily. Anyways, back to our main position of the 4 knights game after black plays knight to f6. Well, once again, just remember to replace bishop c4 with pawn to a3, a waiting move. And again, most of your opponents will play bishop c5. And because of this error, you remember to sacrifice your knight on e5, and after knight takes, you go pawn to d4, double attacking the bishop and the knight. Again, if bishop takes d4, a common mistake, you take back. Knight c6, you play the key move queen d3 with the idea of playing queen g3 in the near future. Again, if black castles short, you want to castle long, that's why you play bishop g5 with tempo. h6, you don't retreat your dark squared bishop, you have pawn to h4, allowing them to take, which is a mistake by the way. But what if they don't take? And let's say they play an in-between move, knight to e5, counter-attacking your queen. Well, that's why you have queen g3. And now you are threatening to take on h6. Not to mention that you are also threatening to take the free knight on e5. If they play knight g6, well, this is completely losing for black because you have pawn to h5. Let them take your bishop because you can take back the knight on g6. And if fg, this is an opportunity where you can play bishop c4 because it's coming with check. And this file is covered by our rook. So if they play d5, taking on d5 with your knight is a good move. But the best move is to castle long. So you always want to look out for best moves. Black's pawn on d5 is pinned to the queen by our rook. And again, the d5 pawn is pinned to the king by our bishop. So this is funny. If bishop e6, you can now simply take on d5. If knight takes d5, you take with your pawn because there's a tactic you are up to. If bishop f7, you simply go queen h3, wanting to checkmate on h8. There's a problem. This is going to be mate in 6. For example, bishop takes d5, you take back with your rook, queen e7, rook d7. This is discovery check by our bishop. And after rook f7, it's queen h8 checkmate. So this is just a few lines you needed to know. If black doesn't take your dark squared bishop on g5 right in this position, and let's say they try to play knight e5. Anyways, there's a line where black doesn't castle short immediately after the following sequence of moves: knight takes e5, knight takes, pawn to d4, bishop takes, queen takes d4, knight c6, then you go queen d3. We saw that the top played move is castle short in this position, but there are times when your opponents will respond with pawn to d6. Once again, you want to castle long as quickly as you can, so that's why you play bishop g5. If pawn to h6, this time you don't have pawn to h4 because black hasn't castled short, so you need to play bishop h4. You can see they always play pawn to g5. This is okay for you because you haven't yet castled short, so they are just wasting their time. You play bishop g3. If they play bishop e6, now you simply castle long, and whatever they can do, queen d7, they want to castle long as well. Wait, since your king is safe and you are already ahead in development, you can begin your attack with knight d5 in this position. If they play knight takes d5, that's a blunder because you are going to win a piece. So they have to take with their bishop like this. And now you take with your pawn. If they go knight e5, taking the knight on e5 is a good move. But you always want to look for the best moves like queen b5 check. You also want to win the pawn on b7. If they go pawn to c6, blocking the check and also defending their b7 pawn, well, you just take the pawn. If bc, you go queen b4, attacking a new spot on d6. If they play knight d5, counter-attacking your queen, you go queen d2. It looks like we are just having a normal game, but as you were maneuvering your pieces, you were leaving black's position to be somewhat weak. Look at all these highlighted squares. For example, if they castle short, you can go pawn to h4. Imagine if you are playing this position in a classical tournament. This is a must win for you guys. And Stockfish says position is already plus 5.0 in favor of white. So this is a decisive win for white. Alright. So after achieving the 4 knights variation, and then we play a3, bishop c5 by black, knight takes, and pawn to d4. What if black plays bishop d6, the second most played move in this position? Well, this is a very funny line to learn, you guys. You can simply go pawn to f4. If they play knight g6, look at this. You create another fork. If bishop e7, taking on f6 is good, but pawn to f5 is best. If they play knight f8, now this is when you can take on f6. If bishop takes, now you go knight d5. You could have played anything else like bishop f4, bishop c4, etc. But you always want to be the one attacking, putting more pressure on your opponent, provoking them to make lots of mistakes. For example, if they played bishop d6, the top played move, now you go queen e2 check. That was the idea. If they played bishop e7 blocking the check, now you go pawn to f6. You can see all these ideas flowing the more you keep on attacking. They can't take back because of mate in 1. See that the bishop is pinned to the king and our knight is also covering the d7 square. So this is kind of smoother checkmate. That's why you just keep on attacking, provoking black to make lots of mistakes. So once again, if black takes back your pawn on f6, you just remember to go knight d5, because if d6 you have queen e2 check. And by the way, if pawn to c6, you also have queen e2 check. They have to block with their bishop. Once again, you go pawn to f6. Yeah, they can take your knight this time, but you don't even have to take the bishop because you can take a free pawn first, double attacking the rook and the knight, so that if rook g8, you take the knight with check. And let's say if king takes f8, you develop your dark squared bishop with tempo, that's check. They have to go back, and this is when you can castle long. Look at black's terrible position. So in most cases, you are going to be the one emerging with a better pawn structure with this rare opening, you guys. So beautiful to learn. Anyways, again, after playing pawn to d4, then black plays bishop d6 instead of taking. Well, you don't take back. That's only a good move. You need to play the best move, pawn to f4. And we saw what happens if black plays knight g6. But what if they play knight c6? Well, you go pawn to e5. If bishop e7, this time you don't have pawn to f5 because there is no knight on g6. So you just simply take the knight. If bishop takes, again this time you don't have knight d5 because black can easily castle long and your knight will look useless on d5. So you simply save your pawn like this. It was being attacked twice. If knight e7, you go knight e4. You want to play actively, attacking black's bishop on f6. If knight f5, you develop your light squared bishop, and on the next move you castle short. So again, you can see how simple this opening is to learn, you guys. If you want to learn more about this simple opening, you can head to my website www.casperchess.com and join our free masterclass to gain access to the complete version of this video, which is free. And there you'll also find the master PGN for this study. And by the way, I have a new feature on my website where you can become our partner by promoting our courses and earn 40% commission. You don't have to be my student to do this. All you need to do is to visit my website and click the promote us and earn button to register for my partnership program and start earning some passive income. Not to mention that you can also check out my new Italian opening course, which is the Italian opening Gioco Pianissimo, that I highly recommend, especially for beginners and intermediate level players. By the way, even coaches and advanced players, because there are some new lines that you may add to your already existing Gioco Pianissimo repertoire. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and remember to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if at all you haven't already. Until next time, bye bye.